Hey guys, my name is Dave Sarabia and welcome to Environment Sketching with 3D Primitives. A little bit about me: I am currently a concept artist at Scrollpad Studios. I'm also a teacher at Brainstorm School, and if you want to get to know me a bit better, you can go ahead and follow my social media. And if you want to learn more, you can check out my classes at Brainstorm School, and as well as checking out my other tutorials at the Foundation Group. In this tutorial, we're going to create a Japanese temple using a structured process to help kickstart your concept and take it into a refined line drawing. So before we start to get into the drawing, it's always good to have a plan and strategy. It's kind of like going to a location without your GPS. And if you don't have that, you could tend to stray away from your original direction. So it's always good to have these tangible steps to help you make your progress, to help guide you to your goal. So over here we have a sheet, and I've broken it down into two categories. We got the temple and the environment. And for the temple category, we could then break it down into walls, doors, roofs, and pillars. And for the environment, we could also then break it down into rocks, trees, bushes, and clouds. So having more of these keywords into your categories will definitely benefit you. And these are the tangible steps that will help progress your concept. So now that we know what our direction is, let's go ahead and make a reference board. And in this reference board, I've divided it into three categories: real life, art, and a Kickstart reference. And in real life reference, let's go ahead and find photos that hit all those keywords that we just made. And if you can find a few photos that hit all those keywords, even better. The last thing you want to do is to overflood your reference board with all these images. And the reason for that is because it could lead you to a lot of distraction and also make you indecisive in your decision making. For the art section, I like to look for references that will help me with grouping of details, silhouette, proportions, big, medium, and smalls. So this is kind of where I'm using this art reference. And for the Kickstart reference, this is to jumpstart your idea and actually finding an object that is completely different from your subject matter definitely helps, because this reference is meant for us to use a different anomaly to help us create a more interesting design. Since we have a clear direction with our reference board, now we can start drawing. Let's open up our canvas, drop our kickstarting reference. I'm just gonna lay it on the page and have all three laid out. Gonna combine those together, drop the opacity. And then I'm just gonna start drawing on top. And this is gonna be really quick. I'm not gonna spend too much time, and I'm only gonna break down the big shapes, the big overall to medium shapes. And I'm gonna do this very loosely. I'm not worried about the fidelity of the line weight. I'm not worried about the line cleanliness. It's more about just getting the overall shape. So over here, I'm just extruding big primary shapes using primitives. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just start on the next one. Just overlapping, getting the outline of the overall shape, making sure that I hit the silhouette. I am adding a little bit of form in these quick breakdowns, but not so much. I'm more so paying attention to the overall shape. And again, these sketches, these breakdowns shouldn't take too long. Gonna go for the side view. And it's always good to have different views of the same prop, because it gives you like a wide range of design choices. All right, nice. So let's go ahead and put this up, prop it on the page, and then let's go ahead and just start with the first one. So over here, I'm looking at the reference on the other screen, and I'm trying to find ways that I could create, different silhouettes, and just like trying to see what I can take from the existing Kickstart prop and like create a good composition. Right now I'm just trying to put in the temple. I wanted it to be right in the middle for this one. And I'm basically just using this Kickstart reference almost as like a layout. I'm following the L shape that it has. So I'm just replacing those shapes into Japanese temple shapes. And I'm not really focusing on so much on what the object is. I'm more so focusing on the shape, the overall shape. And it's great too, because using the Kickstart reference, I'm not just tied to the subject matter itself. And it's basically just to be a helping guide to jumpstart any idea. And I like working in this way because I'm not tied down to anything really. It's actually helping me come up with I'm like using the randomness to help me come up with a better design. So over here I'm just playing with orientation on the second one, where I'm just now moving the main temple to the left side. And again, I'm not worried about the perspective, I'm not worried about the line fidelity. It's just more about the silhouette, the shape. Does it read clear? Can I understand it from far away? Do I know where the door is, the trees are? Like, are these shapes clear enough? And over here, I just want to like explore a more just a horizontal type of design where we just have buildings not stacked in an L, but just in a line formation. And what's so great about drawing this way is that because it's so loose, you're able to freely explore without having the need to be afraid, to just scribble around and erase certain things. And again, now because I'm designing it from the side view, it's also great to have your Kickstart reference in different views. It just forces you to explore different ideas. And over here, I'm just seeing maybe like just changing the proportion of the temple. I know that I wanted the supporting buildings on the side. Maybe there's one in front, but it's like an offset, so it's a bit asymmetrical for this one. And I wanted to emphasize the main temple to be bigger. So now that I'm doing another round of exploration, I want to, I don't know, maybe change it up, change up the orientation of the kickstart reference rather than just me drawing a different orientation. So I'm gonna have the kickstart reference help me do that first. So over here, I'm playing with the idea of maybe having the temple be a lot taller and narrower. Yeah, playing again with the silhouette, making sure that I break it up. Just readjusting the height. I feel a little bit too tall to the point where it was gonna tip over. Just adding the supporting buildings around. Making sure we know where the base starts. Adding some environment elements like the rocks and trees. For this second round too, again, just changing that orientation, even as simple as flipping it. Now I want to play with where this temple is going to start, and also maybe there's an extrusion of the temple that comes in front. I just wanted to play with that silhouette pop. And notice how, like, I'm not really talking about the architecture itself. I'm just talking about shape, proportion, orientation, and silhouette. Because ultimately that's what we read first. Because it's all about the graphic read and not so much about the subject matter itself. So just keeping all of that in mind in terms of designing, I think it would definitely help create a strong design. So now we're going to go back to the last variation. And you know what? I'm just gonna play up with this temple silhouette. Wanted to see if I could add more floors to it. Maybe change the roof design just a bit. And then adding another structure on the side. And over here, I'm just thinking about like my big, medium, and smalls. And then now I'm capping it off with some environment elements like the trees. All right. Now we got our rough sketches. And let's go ahead and pick one. I would like to pick this one. All right, so let's start getting into 3D. Let's open up Blender. With Blender open, we're gonna have our own mesh. We're gonna start with a basic cube. I'm gonna go ahead and delete the bottom face. And let's go ahead and grab the edges of the bottom and extrude them out. We're gonna extrude them out on all sides. And I'm holding control while I'm extruding so it can snap on the grid. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make a cut in the middle. And then I'm going to, again, extrude out the edges using the same technique. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab the middle edges, and then I'm going to use Control B to then bevel those edges to create that nice curve. Just want to readjust the height of the roof. And then I'm just going to grab the bottom edge, fill in the bottom face. And while selecting the bottom face, I'm going to extrude just the width, and then do another extrusion to pull out the body of the building. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it just so I could get that second level. To make sure it fits right. Just gonna duplicate it again. And right now, I'm not worried about it having, perfect polygons, or I'm not even counting how many polygons I'm using. This is just merely using basic 3D primitives to create a structure just to help us, draw on top and use it as a base. So right now I'm adding in the top roof element, making sure that it's the right scale. Let me go ahead and create another polygon, another mesh. And as I'm building these polygons, I'm looking at my sketch on the other screen, the sketch that we chose earlier, and I'm still adjusting the silhouette, the shape. Even in 3D, I'm still paying attention to silhouette. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the roof. just using a basic cylinder and turning down the sides. Gonna go ahead and adjust the orientation on the Z-axis. And also notice I'm not building every single detail out. I'm still sticking with the 3D primitives. Just basic primitive shapes. That's all I'm sticking to. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that same building. And duplicate it again to create that L shape. Making sure it aligns correctly. I'm going to go ahead and make that small tower to the left. I'm also thinking about silhouette as well, and that's why I was taking a bit of time to see how it looks like, adjusting the view. I'm gonna grab all the polygons and put it onto the plane. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this L building in front of us so we could get that roof that pokes out. Just readjusting the viewport. I normally like to model in the orthographic view, but when it comes to the viewport, I'll put it back into perspective view. Gonna go ahead and duplicate that roof ornament to add it to the smaller tower. Just gonna Control J that and group the polygons together. Yeah, I'm just checking it. Just checking to see if it looks right. Gonna go ahead and bring up the camera. And I'm just looking for a good shot. A good shot that could give us a clear read on the building. I wanted the shot to be a little bit more exaggerated, so I'm bringing down the lens. And 30 millimeters is great for that perspective push. Gonna go ahead and render out that image. And let's open up Photoshop. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open up a new canvas, 11 by 17. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring up our plan sheet. So we're gonna go and make assets based off of these keywords. So I'm looking at the reference on the side, and let's go ahead and start making a wall. I'm gonna first start with one section of the wall. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the support beam. And go ahead and duplicate it. I'm going to use this piece and extend it. And I'm just looking at the reference from this on the other screen. And I'm just trying to find ways that how I could reuse the same asset. So it's like I'm making smaller assets to make more assets. I'm just trying to find the fastest way to do this and the most efficient. I'm gonna go ahead and make this door. I'm gonna delete any overlapping lines. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate the support beam. Just add it, and then I want to make the door supports out of that support beam. Making sure it's in the right proportion, duplicating it, and erasing any excess lines. Gonna go ahead and merge everything, duplicate it, make it darker, adding some final touches. There you go. Here's a wall. And then I'm gonna go over the sheet again, and I'm gonna make a simple pillar, because I know that I'll be using that pillar many times. I'm gonna go ahead and make this fence. Just making sure I get the right design down. It's looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that. Making sure that the proportion's correct. And done. Moving on to the next. I'm gonna make the support. And making this wall support, I'm just gonna make one side, duplicate it, making sure that the silhouette's clear. And then I'm gonna, because I know that we're gonna be making a lot of roof tiling, so I just want to make a texture for that, making sure that I have the spacing correct. And I'm going to go ahead and make a flag. Just making sure that I get all the overlapping lines cleaned up. Yeah, just pushing out that silhouette. Gonna make that symbol. And again, just designing one part, duplicating the other. Trying to get that nice spacing. Merging it together and putting it on the flag. Want to make a nice border around the design. Now let's go ahead and start making assets for the environment. I'm gonna first start off with the tree. I'm just drawing the silhouette, and I'm paying attention to the different sizes and how the silhouette's gonna portray. And when it comes to like designing the interiors, I'm not fully drawing out all the details inside because silhouette is what matters the most. So you're only going to see me drawing a few leaves in the interior of the shape. Gonna go ahead and add that trunk and some branches. And again, there's not much detail in the interior shape, and just by adding a few details here and there just to show form, it already feels like a fully lush tree. And I'm gonna go ahead and take parts of the tree to make a bush. And it's using the same philosophy of reusing your old assets to make new ones. Now I want to go ahead and make a bonsai tree. And again, even though we might not be using all these assets, it is always good to at least draw some of these out just in case. It's making sure that I have the right rhythm. Just duplicating the leaves again. Merging all the leaves together to make another new clump of leaves. And I like using this method because it's number one, speeds up the process, and number two, it gives me a chance to see the design as quickly as possible. So I'm not sitting there and redrawing and erasing and redrawing. And as I'm making these assets, I'm squinting my eyes and I'm seeing the overall silhouette. And notice how I'm also deleting a lot of interior details as well, because they don't really matter. They don't really matter as much as the silhouette. Go ahead and get those branches in. Nice. Got our bonsai. All right, let's go ahead and start making clouds. So again, with the same idea, just paying attention to overall silhouette, big, medium, and small. I'm taking note of the proportion on each cloud, or each cloud shape. And what I mean by that too is like the distance, like and how long, how short. I'm thinking about different clumpings in terms of how long are my strokes versus how close, how far they are apart. And I was erasing that line because the width of those clouds are getting a little bit too similar. And just showing a little bit of overlap. There you go, got a cloud. Let's move on and start getting some rocks. Starting out with the interior, making sure that the form reads, getting another bigger rock, making sure I get the edges correctly, adding a double line, playing with the big, medium, small. All right, now we have our asset sheet. All right, let's go ahead and drop in our screenshot. Just gonna align it with the canvas, just cropping it in, making sure it fits correctly. I'm gonna get my drawing brush and then go ahead and add in a grid. I'm gonna first go and find the horizon, making sure it gets lined up. And it's great too because we screen grabbed it from Blender with the grid on. It's a lot easier to follow. So that's one tip that I like to use. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate the grid and stretch it. Making sure it all lines up correctly. Sweet. Now I'm going to go ahead and crop the image so we could delete the excess, invert the grid so we could get two different colors, and lower the opacity. go ahead and let's make a new layer. And I'm gonna go and start just drawing like a basic primitive cube. And this is just to find out, maybe I could extrude some of these primitives out. So even though I didn't necessarily model this, there's always room to play with. So you're not always stuck with what you just modeled. And I like having this kind of freedom too. And that's why it's always good to have a basic base to work off of. Because the moment I start detailing my design in 3D, I tend to get stuck within that design because I spent so much time, right, to make the 3D. I think it's better to just have the 3D as simple as possible. So then there's always room to adjust. So I'm gonna go ahead and establish this doorway. And now I'm just gonna start with the big main shapes. Rotating the flipping the canvas to see if it looks correct. I also want to add some stairways, so I'm mapping out where these stairways would be, just to get an idea of the layout. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our asset, our pillar asset, and let's go ahead and drop in that wall doorway. And I like to start with the doorway because it already establishes the scale of our building. So it's a lot easier for me to adjust how big and how small things are going to be. So I'm going to lower the opacity of our primitive shapes, our primitive extrusions, and then I'm going to start laying in those supports. And again, I am still using the reference. I just have the reference on the other screen, but I'm still using the reference that we had from before. And I'm constantly looking at what kind of architecture design I can use. I'm looking at proportion. Gonna go ahead and duplicate that, make the top roof of it. And see, even in the same drawing as well, I am reusing any new asset that I can just to speed up the process. And the more you think this way, the more you could kind of see what else you can use, because you'll be surprised in what you can use just with a few existing lines. go ahead and duplicate that. Do the same thing. Gonna repeat the design. And I haven't cleaned up the left-hand side just yet because I'm not too sure if the design's gonna work. I just wanted to see if it works on the other side, and then I'll go ahead and proceed to cleaning. Go ahead and duplicate the top roofs, line it into perspective, Now I'm going to go ahead and proceed to cleaning up. Adjusting the roof. I just want to get that silhouette pop on the left. So that's why you see me fiddling with that roof. Always trying to get a good overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and build the back pillar, the back left side pillar. Now just duplicating the right side to make the back. Readjusting the perspective. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and make the door, or like the door wall. Just wanna vary up the details just a little bit so it doesn't look too copy and paste. Nice. Just gonna make sure that everything looks correct. Just aligning it in perspective. Alright, just cleaning up any overlap. Want to get into just adding in the bottom portion, but then I realized it was getting way too pixelated, So I'm going to go ahead and proceed to do it by hand. So sometimes even, this is like a good example where sometimes even our assets don't really help us. Because, you know, we could only predict so much. And sometimes we end up not using all of our assets. I mean, that's why it's also a good note to not spend so much time on making your asset sheet as well, because yeah, sometimes you won't be able to use them. I'm gonna go ahead and get the bottom portion of that middle roof. Now I'm going to start putting in that fence. Nice, putting it into perspective. I am so happy that I did this in the asset sheet. I could only imagine just drawing all that in perspective. I'm gonna go ahead and add some width to this fence. All right, it's looking good. Gonna go ahead and duplicate that on the other side. Gonna go ahead and delete any overlaps. And now I'm gonna start getting the border of the bottom part. And see, even when I'm using the wall asset, I found out that, oh, okay, these shapes are very similar to the bottom base of the temple, so why not just use it? And this is what I was talking about, where when you start training your eye, you could start seeing other shapes being reused. And with the different context, with the different orientation of those shapes, you could start to like bridge the gap and see other designs within those shapes. And that's why I don't like to focus too much on the actual subject matter. I just like to focus on shape, because just focusing on shape could allow me to come up with different type of subject matters, because I'm not only limited to me thinking, okay, that's just a doorway. So having this kind of mindset allows you to be actually a lot more efficient, like reusing that wall asset for this temple base. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add the stairs. And then again, I'm gonna bring over the pillar. And I'm gonna go ahead and make this stair ornament. And then as I make one asset, I'm just gonna go ahead and duplicate that. Just making sure if it looks correctly first. I mean, at this point, I'm just testing it out. Gonna grab a portion of that fence and then reuse it. And boom. You got the stair handles. Gonna go ahead and duplicate that on the other side. Gonna make sure I clean up any overlaps again. Zooming out just to see if it looks correctly. Okay, now I'm adding the stairs. Gonna go ahead and add a little bit of beveling. And going back in for cleanup. Just coming out okay. Now I need to make sure that everything sits in the right plane. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop that down, drop the door down, drop the two other towers on the side down. Because they weren't sitting on the plane correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that extra stair ornament. I'm gonna realign that right tower. Gonna go ahead and drop another pillar. And this asset is giving me so much value. And as you guys can see, it's the simple asset that gets used the most. Because we could go ahead and do a lot of like hero assets, but the problem with that is it's so iconic that you probably won't be using it too much. So normally the simpler assets the simpler assets are the ones that get used the most. And then over here I'm just gonna drop in the wall, like using the wall planks, and then I would mask it. I would go ahead and mask it. and then just paint in whatever I need to use. And this is a lot easier to do because I know that there's going to be so much overlap that if I do it the other way around, it's just going to be a lot more complicated, especially for my eyes. All right, just thickening up some lines to get a clear read. Just want to make sure that the overlaps are making sense. I'm going to go ahead and start making the support beam for the top roof. And again, just starting off with the structure, the structure of this tower. Just making sure that the spacing is correct. I'm going to go ahead and merge them together and delete the excess lines. Go ahead and delete some of those overlaps. And I'm going to go and reuse the supports that we just made. And repeating the same process. And the reason why I'm not scaling it down to fit the structure is because I know that these towers are not getting smaller through perspective. It's getting smaller through the actual structure. So if I do scale down those supports, the sizing of those wood pieces wouldn't be correct. So that's why you see me moving them individually to fit the base. Just making sure that the details don't look the same, so it doesn't look too copy and paste. gonna go ahead and duplicate the same thing. Just align it into perspective. And again, just reusing whatever I can just to speed up the process. It's gonna add some widths to those supports. Just making sure that it fits correctly, just adding the top planes. Making sure that the silhouette looks good. And repeating, rinse and repeat. And repeating the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and add that middle support. Going to put that support back into perspective. Okay, nice, looking good. Adding the third one. Also adding that that bevel, or like the depth of the support. And I'm going to add that top support. Kind of struggling getting the distortion button. Deleting any excess lines. Gonna go ahead and add the support beams on the bottom. Just making sure that I get the other side. Just lining it up with the perspective. Making sure that we could see the plank touching the other side. Adding in the middle support. Taking away any excess lines. Okay, great. Now we got all the supports for the tower, for the middle tower. And now we're going to go ahead and start on the right side. Now I'm just figuring out like what's the proportion of this. I didn't want it to create a tangent. Duplicating it. And it's great too because it's basically the same process that we were doing with the supports in the middle tower. It's the same process. And notice how even though the support beams were not technically aligned when I duplicated them, my main focus was just to have the bottom pillars connect with each other, because I know that eventually I'm just going to erase it, so it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter at that point. And again, just looking at the proportion for these, because I want to get that good big, medium, small. And reusing that fence asset. Awesome. So I just wanted to poke that fence out just a bit, just to pop that silhouette. And I know eventually I'm going to add in another side of the fence. And when it comes to sketching, I want you guys to always focus on that silhouette. Even if it's a slight pop and a slight bevel out of the silhouette, those pops make a huge difference. I'm gonna go ahead and add the bottom support beam. Making sure that I get all the overlaps cleaned up. Just aligning, just tweaking perspective, making sure things are aligned well. And again, just adding a corner support beam. And as I'm doing this, I'm constantly looking at the reference board and seeing how those temples are being built. So I'm essentially just taking a few pieces from my reference, and then I'm just combining them, as I go. Awesome. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in a little bit details on those pillars. Just want to give it a more round form. So I'm adding in more rounder forms within the silhouette. See, and even though I'm using the same pillar as for our squared off supports, just the mere fact that I'm changing the interior forms of the pillar, it automatically looks like a cylindrical shape. So that's why, silhouette is very important, because you could always adjust later on with interior shapes or interior forms. And it's great because we're getting so much mileage from one asset. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the support beams to add them in the back. Now I'm just matching the perspective of the bottom of the support beams, because again, we're not going to see the top, right? So the top doesn't matter. Making sure they align up in perspective. Gonna go ahead and duplicate that fence just to add it on the other side. Then I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the depth, making sure that it sits well, that we can see the underplanes. Alright, gonna delete any of the unnecessary overlaps. And just cleaning up those lines from the duplication. Gonna go ahead and add in another support beam. Great, it's looking good. Yep, just cleaning it up. Alright, gonna start adding in the pillar on the sides. And then I want to add the other side of the fence as well. And again, just reusing anything that I could find that would speed up the process. And just cleaning up the fence. And then I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate the whole top side fence and place it onto the left side. Just want to align it into perspective. And then I'm making sure that I get the right overlap, because there is a spacing in front of that tower. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that, making sure that we get that nice bevel and we see the underside plane. Gonna duplicate the pillars. Put it into perspective. Just making sure it sits right, and just masking away. And like when we start doing this, even though we're like just reusing a lot of assets, it's always good to keep in mind good overlap, because sometimes we don't want to create tangents as well. So even when I'm, designing, I'm always making a conscious effort to avoid all these tangents. Okay, just double checking. All right, now I'm going to start hitting the base. And I'm just going to use the smudge tool. And I tried it out. Turns out it does not work out. So I'm just going to go ahead and use our trusty asset. Can align it into perspective. Okay, gonna eliminate any overlap. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in the backside pillars. Just erase any overlaps. And again, even when I'm adding these backside pillars, I'm focusing on the spacing, making sure that there isn't like a 50-50 like space between the negative. And I'm making a conscious effort to have a more diverse layout. And again, just making sure all the overlaps are cleaned up. quick look. Yeah, just notice some overlaps. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and add the support for the other building that's sticking out. And it's really great because right when you start figuring out one section of the building, it's a lot easier to replicate all the other sections. So when I start designing, I like to at least figure out one portion of the design first. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab another pillar from our traceal asset. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same with the bottom. Matching perspective. Gonna go ahead and duplicate the top plank. Alright, just making sure that those layers are correct so I could merge them together. And then I'm going to start working on the vertical pillars, making sure it has that roundness to them, adding some quick form indication. And it's always good to not really show too many prominent lines in the form. It's actually nice to just hint a few marks to show form. That subtleness of mark making just has a better look. It doesn't look like it's a straight up wireframe. And then over here I'm going to make another fence, making sure that they blend in well. So just erasing any lines that kind of stand out. Just going to now match it into perspective. Just realigning. And then just duplicating to get the depth, and erasing any overlaps, weird overlaps. Nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the same thing. Just add it to the front. Just making sure that the outside silhouette is looking good. making sure that the base planks are sitting into the pillars. And now I'm just erasing any weird overlap. And then now I'm just matching the other thinner support. Yeah, I'm always trying to find ways to make this more efficient. And even if it's just changing the proportion of the same, like, or not the same plank, but just changing proportion of any line drawing or any piece of asset. Now I'm gonna go ahead and erase any overlapping. Making sure that those pillars sit in right. Now I'm just tackling the back side, making sure it's in perspective. Gonna go ahead and add the other plank. Just to extrude it to get that nice silhouette pop. Just merging those pillars together. Taking the tops off. And I noticed I was missing one more pillar in the back. Had a free floater over there. Now addressing the roofing. And I was trying to smudge the roof to see if it worked out, but it just came out really messy. So just ended up just stretching the existing one. But now I'm cleaning up the edges because the stretch made it blurry. Just want to have that clean edge, and now I'm duplicating the other side. I'm just matching perspective. Yep, making sure it sits well. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the supports. And when I'm adding the supports, when I was trying to warp it, it's always good to warp out, like when you start warping, it's good to have like a lasso space around it. So when you do warp, it doesn't warp dramatically. So that's why you see me lassoing the whole, or not the whole thing, but like lassoing the supports with a bit of space. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate those, move it onto the other side. Yeah, making sure that it comes into perspective correctly. Now I'm just adding in the depth. Because now we can see the front plane of that support. Go ahead and duplicate the front. Yeah, it's making sure that it aligns correctly. Now I'm just tackling the outer silhouette. Cleaning up any overlap, duplicating it again. Okay, duplicating the sides again. Now making sure that things are being tidied up, making sure that the layers are together, doing the layer management. All right, now I'm gonna tackle on the other supports. And normally for this phase, when I'm starting laying things out, you know, it's sometimes good to always go back to your reference and just breaking down how things are being placed, how things are like sitting with each other. And again, it's the same process. And the reason why I like to work this way is because there's a lot of repetition, and after a while you expect to know what result you're gonna get because there's a lot of repetition. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this piece. Yeah, making sure that perspective is sitting correctly with that support. Now I'm going to add the top of the roof, making sure that there's a base for the ornament. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the cylindrical, like kind of like plates, and as long as I can make one, keep on duplicating. And again, it's basically the same process. And honestly, when it comes to like, you know, relating it to like making food or anything like that, it's like, you know, laying out your, like if you're making a sandwich and you're making multiple sandwiches, it's kind of like laying out all your bread and then putting all your condiments first, then your meats, then your lettuce, and just repeating that same process, being a little bit more efficient. That is something that I like to do when I'm working this way. Okay, gonna go ahead and tackle the other roofs. Gonna make sure that this sits properly. And I'm still deciding whether or not if I want to make that roof longer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there and move on to the other roof for now. Making sure that that sits right on perspective. It was a little bit too thick. Gonna go ahead and add in the other roof to the left building. Gonna go ahead and line it up. Just trying to make sure I can get that corner to match correctly. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start to blend it in. And again, just reusing the supports. Just warping it into perspective. I think it's pretty great how, you know, most of these things are reusable. And as you can see, I'm just taking the top, adding the ornament as well. And you know, at this stage, I would, you know, put on a movie or have a video on the side, because this at this point it's not, the planning's already been done, right? And that's where we want to be at. Like, you front side all the work, and when I say work, I mean the planning and the preparation. You front side all of that in the beginning, and then now when you start getting into this phase, it's mostly just, you know, having fun with it. And because you already know your process and you know that there's gonna be a lot of reusing and stuff, this is where, you know, you can kind of take it easy and just like enjoy the cleanup phase. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I could reuse that support for the roof. Now I just need to add in its depth. I'm gonna do it on the other side as well. And I'm just making sure that it sits properly. Gonna go ahead and hit that bottom edge and just repeating it for the other three sections. And then now I'm just adding in that little brace because I didn't want it to just float on its own. And then I'm gonna tackle the back tower. Let me go ahead and do it the same. Now I'm going to add the width. Okay, looking good. Yeah, I was trying to do like a more spherical ornament, but it just looks totally out of place, so I went back with a more triangular ornament. Yeah, adding the side supports. Yeah, making sure that there's a better overlap. Bring this back into perspective. I'm going to go ahead and grab the asset for the roof. I'm going to duplicate that, blend it in, merge it together. I'm going to make sure that this sits properly. And now I'm doing the same thing where I'm lassoing around the texture. So when I do warp it, it doesn't warp dramatically. Now I'm gonna go ahead and place it onto the roof. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and mask it. And there you go. You kind of see me struggling with selecting the roof again. And I just want to make sure to get a nice curve. I think I could get the curve just right. And as I looked at it, does not work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and revert back. And just repeat the same process. and I wanted to show you guys how it's always good to try and push some things, and you know, and we always don't hit it, you know, off the mark. So don't be afraid to try something new and trying to push and see if you could do it better, even though if it doesn't turn out, you know, as you wanted. So this is a great example of yeah, just trying to, you know, make things better, even though if it doesn't work out. So now doing the same thing, just masking it in, making sure it aligns correctly. Now that I'm happy with what I have, I'm just gonna go ahead and duplicate it and repeat the same thing. Now I'm just tweaking it just a bit, making sure that I get that nice curve. And applying it to the same roofs, applying it to the other roofs. Awesome. Now repeating the same process for the other roofs as well. Still using that lasso technique. Now I'm going to mask. Boom, done. Repeat. And again, just finding more efficient ways to do this. Yeah, getting the right angle, because it is receding back into perspective. Just want to make sure that the curves are going back in space. Now applying it to the other side and remasking. And this is why I like to mask, because there's times where I could just literally flip the texture around and it would work, because it's close in perspective when you flip it. So I don't always like to destroy my my textures quite quickly, especially when I know I'm going to repeat. And I'm going to go ahead and apply it in the front. Just matching the curvature. Yeah, now I'm not too happy with that one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and redo it. Just trying to make sure that I get this right. I'm doing the same process. Yep, getting that nice curvature. Now I want to tackle this bottom roof. and just seeing how I could go about it. I want to see if I could use this roof and make the understructure. Just getting this nice curve by rotating my canvas. And again, just repeating it. Yeah, making sure I get that underplane. So I ended up just duplicating with whatever I have, just to fit the underplane. And now I'm just duplicating on the rest of the roofs. Just repeating on the other side. I'm just erasing the middle part. Because any line that's within the object, I'm trying to avoid any thick lines. And I would normally save thicker lines for the silhouette or anything that would touch like an object to an object. So that's why you see me erasing the middle line. But over here, because the support is touching the roof, then I'm making it thicker. And understanding those core principles, it's a lot easier for me to reuse a lot of assets, even though it may not look right. I'm able to manipulate it and fit the look because I know what to adjust. And then I'm just applying to the rest of the roof. I'm going to add the underplanes of the roof. Adding the back pillar, I noticed I was missing it. Then I'm going to go ahead and tackle the underside. Just placing it right because I know that there's a little curvature. It's gonna do the exact same thing to the rest of the bottom parts of the roof. Let me go ahead and repeat that. I was trying to see if I could fan it out, but it just didn't work out. Yeah, I wanted to see if that worked. Totally didn't work, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab another asset and just place it into perspective. Awesome, looking good. Gonna do the same thing. Yeah, there's times that it's hard to reuse the asset because the asset's been warped too far, where it become pixelated and unclear. Yeah, making sure I clean up any edges or unwanted overlaps. And then now I'm gonna attack the back side of the underplane of the roof. Just making sure I match perspective. And then for this part, I'm leaving a little bit of the silhouette because eventually I'm gonna cap it off. Yeah, just leaving a little bit of it. Alright. Yep, just erasing any excess lines. Making sure I get that nice silhouette pop. Trying to mask it. Just repeating it as well. And just leaving that silhouette edge. Yeah, erasing any excess lines. And then just cleaning it up. Making sure I'm getting that nice silhouette. And then right now I'm just addressing the other side as well, the bottom side. Just cleaning up the silhouette. Now I'm seeing any other undersides that I can tackle. Now addressing the right building. Notice that the back tower's roof didn't have its tiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay that in. And repeat. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put those into perspective, the bottom side. And the reason why I drew these is because it's going to be so small that the texture is just going to be really blurry. Now I'm just applying it to the other bottoms as well. Yep. And now that it looks good, I just flatten the whole thing. And then now let's go ahead and start adding in the corner braces. Now just popping off the other side. And again, just reusing any assets that we already have, because our whole drawing could be one big asset, right? So just reusing it. And again, looking at the reference that we grabbed earlier, just to follow the design or get inspiration from it. Gonna add it to the other side. Gonna go ahead and mask it. Nice. Now I'm gonna go and repeat the same thing, but on the left side. But now this time I have to redraw it just a bit, making sure I get that nice curve, a subtle curve. Repeating the same ornament and erasing any overlap. Looking good, so I'm gonna go ahead and repeat it on the top, placing it into perspective, grabbing the same support beam, duplicating it, putting it on the other side. And yet readjusting the width. Now just duplicating it on all three sides. Yeah, so whenever you guys are designing, it's always good to think about what can you use to duplicate or to streamline the process, you know? Because even as you go and finishing up your design, it's always good to constantly think of ways to, adapt to make things go faster. Because, off the bat, you don't exactly know where the design is going to go, but along the way, as long as you think about faster ways to make it more efficient, the easier these drawings will get. And also making this process efficient could lead you to making high fidelity line drawings in a short amount of time. And over here I'm just trying to see if this design works, but it really doesn't work. It's a little bit too messy, too cluttered. So I just went ahead and erased the middle part, and now I'm just tackling the side edge. Turns out it doesn't work, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the same pillar on the same side, and now just cap it off. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that. And then, just going ahead and mask any of the overlaps. Nice, just wanted to give a good look. Just see anything that I'm missing. Just double checking. Now let's get into environments. I'm looking at our old sketch and paying attention to where I could place these trees. And like now I'm just using the same idea where I'm taking parts of this tree and just creating newer looking trees. Because again, I'm trying to avoid having the trees look exactly the same. So right now I'm just, making one new tree and repeating it. And right now I'm just focusing on, just erasing the overlaps, but as well as like looking at the proportion of my negative spaces. See, I'm constantly tweaking the trees to make sure that they're different, and finding ways to reuse them, but at the same time making sure it doesn't look like I'm just, copy and pasting. And then over here, I'm just trying to get the better overlap, because right now it feels pretty unclear. and a bit messy. So right now I'm just cleaning that up. And also I'm making a conscious effort to have these trees like point back to the temple, right? Because the main idea, or the main focus, the POI, the point of interest, is this temple. So if you notice, all the trees are kind of indirectly pointing back, where you could see like a gradation of big, medium, small that leads back into the temple. And these are all conscious decisions. So right now I'm placing the trees in the back because on the bottom floor, or the bottom floor of the buildings, of the side buildings, you can see through it. And right now I'm just duplicating the trees, making sure that the tree trunks look a bit different from each other. And again, it's just to break away that repetition type of design. So this is the part where I'm really focusing on spacing. Like right now I'm just, masking all the trees out, making sure we get the good overlap. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some rocks. And what I like to do, since it's like a different section, I will just go ahead and turn down the opacity. So it's kind of like putting a tracing paper on top, and then now I could just solely focus on the rocks in front. And I like working this way because it's a lot less confusing, right? Just having so many lines. And now we know that, okay, it's our drawing is becoming a bit more complex. Just toning it down with a nice lowered opacity. Now I could just solely focus on rock layout and ground layout. And again, I'm just looking for rhythms at this point, rhythms that will point back at the temple. So anything that could lead back into this entrance, that's how I'm placing these rocks. I'm also thinking about overlaps as well, making sure that we get some good overlap over the architecture. And I'm thinking about how these pillars are being placed on the ground. So I'm adding some dirt that overlap the pillars, maybe some grass as well. Now I'm adding more of these medium-sized rocks. And again, I'm trying to find ways to point back, to lead back into our subject, our POI, point of interest. And over here, I'm trying to get like a cap or end cap of our line drawing. And now I'm just focusing on placing any other overlaps, any opportunities that I can find overlap. I'm just going down the list, adding grass, rocks, some dirt, seeing any types of overlaps, any opportunities that I could get. Like right now, I'm just, placing in the in-betweens. Since we already have our main rhythm, I'm just filling in the gaps at this point. And then now I'm going to go ahead and add some bonsai trees closer to our main focal point. And again, I'm just tweaking the left bonsai tree so it could look different. And I'm just paying attention to like big, medium, and small. I'm also looking at our negative spaces as well when I'm making these decisions. And just trying to change up the rhythm. Gonna go ahead and add some dirt so we get this nice overlap. And now we can get some good rocks in the background. So there's some nice layering, some grass in front. So I'm just doing like a comb over right now, where I'm just going throughout the whole piece and just seeing what things are missing. Now that the piece is at a point where certain areas are figured out, it's a lot easier to just repeat that same principle elsewhere. So right now I'm just doing like a good sweep of our line drawing. And again, just tackling on those branches, making sure that they're not repetitive, they don't seem repetitive. I'm going to go ahead and add those rocks in the background as well. But again, just making sure that I change the silhouette, modify a few of them. Yep, now I'm just masking all the rest of the trees that don't need to be there. And now masking out the rocks, doing an overall cleanup. And cleaning up the trees as well. Just combing through. Now bring up the opacity, seeing how it looks. And now we can get into, adding in some of the clouds. And boom. It's looking pretty good. Now I'm just adjusting it. trying to find some good overlap. I'm paying attention to the roof of the temple. I'm just trying to see like if we could get a secondary cloud in there. And I like to do things in threes, where we have a big, medium, and small. And right now I'm trying to tackle the medium cloud. You know, just changing it up just a little bit. And as you see me like now tackling to third, right? The smaller clouds. But I'm making a conscious effort to point back at the temple. Yeah, I'm always, and if you notice, I was trying to, the reason why I made that top cloud is so it could lead back, because the smaller clouds were leading away from the temple. So I wanted to bring that back. And now I'm adding some birds. And these are also good directional elements as well. And notice how I'm framing the temple. So now you have all these elements, the trees, the clouds, and the birds framing the top of this temple. Now I'm going back in, cleaning up any overlap. Just doing a little comb over. Now I'm getting into black accents. Now this is where I'm going to start popping out some elements that really, you know, like give us a nice contrast. So I'm just hitting any spaces that have like deep crevices, and I'm also hitting areas that have like some sort of overlap. So right now I'm hitting all the underplanes of these supports. I'm hitting the underplanes. Getting in between of those tiles, the roof tiles. And even then, I'm still paying attention to some nice breakup. And at this point, I'm thinking about, you know, lots of tapering. I don't want to just have a thick black line all across. I like to have like this nice taper of a line, of a black line. Now I'm just hitting on the undersides of this ornament. And again, just repeating the same idea from the top roofs. Now hitting in the in-betweens again. Making sure that we have good line weights. That nice tapering. hitting all the undersides as well. And you'll notice that I'm going back, like when I make a mark, I'm actually going back to cut into it and to have like a nice like design shape. Even with this black accent, I'm still thinking about design shape. I'm gonna go hit that corner to get that nice overlap pop. And I'm going to hit this underside of this support. Now tackling on this roof. And again, just hitting all those crevices. And then I noticed that, going back into it, I had this weird overlap of the beams, and now I'm adjusting it. Now I'm hitting the underside. And then again, notice that I totally missed the wall on that side of the building. So I'm gonna go back and add the wall. And now heading back into the black accents again. Gonna go ahead and punch in the bottom floor. And this is great because now this is more of a point of interest, right? So having these higher contrasts in the middle is ideal. And I'm purposely not putting a lot of contrast on the edges of our drawing because I don't want our eyes to lead out, right? So a lot of these decisions are purposely made to keep us looking in our point of interest. Gonna hit the undersides. Now making sure that we have a clear overlap, so I'm thickening up the lines of our pillars. then now I'm hitting the bottoms of our rocks to give it a nice pop. And again, this is all with the emphasis of leading our eye to the point of interest. And then I want to have a better separation of those roofs. So I'm adding in some accents on that side as well. Also addressing the tower in the back. And just doing a comb over. Just to finish this off. And hitting back the floor again, so we get this nice rhythm. And there you go, our finished Japanese temple. Thank you guys for being here with me and watching this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you on the next one.